Okay.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've now been advised that the quorum is present, so I declare the 2022 Nata Annual General Meeting open and extend a warm welcome to everyone. Before the official proceedings, a couple of housekeeping matters, noting that this meeting is being held using the Zoom virtual meetings platform. Should there be any interruption to my internet connection, Dr. Sanne-Marie Schlebusch, Vice Chair of the Board, will take over as Chair of this meeting. Housekeeping. So members should keep their microphone muted, please, during the meeting, unless asked to speak by the Chair. Members should keep their camera on where possible. Members who wish to ask a question should use the raise hand function in Zoom and wait to be invited to speak by the Chair. When addressing the meeting, please unmute your microphone, as one should. Ensure your camera is on, if possible. Introduce yourself and ask your question. Members may also utilise the chat function in Zoom. However, formal questions should be directed to the meeting via the raise your hand function. The chat may not be actively monitored for questions during the meeting. So before we start, the National Association of Testing Authorities acknowledges all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders as the traditional custodians of country and recognises their continuing connection to land, sea, culture and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present. Welcome again, everybody, to the 2022 Nata AGM. We also have here today our auditor, Mr. Russell McGree from Stewart Brown, Chartered Accountants, to answer any questions in connection with the audit of the financial accounts for the year ended the 30th of June 2022. Let me also introduce my fellow directors, Sanne-Marie Schlebusch, Vice Chair, Tracy Farrer, Mark Burgess, Dr. John Leader, Eric Swain and Giacomo Colica. Also present is our CEO, Jennifer Evans, as well as members of the executive management, Tony Vandenberg, General Manager, Governance and Compliance, and also Company Secretary, John Szynski, General Manager, Operations and Technical, Sue Harry, General Manager, Stakeholder Relations, Rob Passam, General Manager, Information Communication Technology, Melinda Spinks, General Manager, Business Services, and also Daniel Dicker, Technical Manager. We also have a number of Nata staff in the audience who have taken the opportunity to observe this year's AGM. Before commencing the formal proceedings, I'd like to give the opportunity, are there any other items of other business that members would like to raise under that item of business? So if we... So there is? Yep. So if you could take, yes, the person who raised their hand, I haven't got your name, but if you
So
could...
it's Susan Weston. I am a Quality Manager for New South Wales Health Pathology, West Regional and Rural, formerly Members Representative for ACT New South Wales. David, I'd be grateful if Nata could provide an update on how members representatives now provide input to Nata now that the members representative group has been disbanded.
Yes, that will certainly be covered. Jennifer will be covering that a little bit in her presentation, but if that's not fully covered, we will raise that again for you in general business.
Thank you.
So anybody else like to raise any other matters for general business? Yes? Okay, so if there's no further notice, I will take the notice of meeting as circulated to authorised representatives via email on September the 12th as read, and we will include that extra item of business under general business. So otherwise, we'll follow the agenda that's available on our website homepage, noting that the minutes of the 2021 AGM are also available on the website. So does anybody have any questions about the minutes of the previous meeting? I think they're fairly straightforward. And if there are no questions, I will accept those minutes as read, as they are standing now. So a very quick summary for you of our past year. It seems rare that a year goes by without presenting us with unique challenges. Over the past year, we've continued to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as inflationary pressures and natural disasters. As always, we have managed these with aplomb. At least the Nata staff have managed them well. So thanks, Nata staff. 2022 was also a cause for celebration with Nata's 75th anniversary. Our marketing team has done much to showcase the Nata story. And for those that are yet to see our timeline video, I encourage you to do so. I'm always proud to see how Nata engages and indeed works collaboratively with both members and volunteers, regardless of the challenges that exist as a natural part of what we do. Jennifer Evans will now provide some key highlights for the past financial year. Thanks very much, Jennifer.
Thanks, David. And good morning, everyone. And I would like to add my welcome to you, to that of David's. Thank you for attending our AGM today. Excuse me. As David mentioned, you will have received a link to our annual report. So my presentation is not going to cover that in detail, just to highlight some of the key achievements that have been detailed in the annual report. And I will conclude by noting some of the work that's already underway in the current year. Lifting Nata's visibility and messaging is a key project in the strategic plan. That strategic plan commenced on the 1st of July 2022. In order to deliver on that, we have made a significant investment in expertise. As I noted last year, we appointed a professional to the position of Head and Marketing and Communications. We had up to that point relied heavily on gifted amateurs and externally sourced contractors. But we now have a professional in charge, and Brendan has assembled an extremely capable team around him. The major focus for the past year has definitely been our 75th anniversary. The Nata 75 video featured past and present Nata staff, board members, alumni, and some of our friends at Standards Australia, JASANS and NMI. Why Accreditation Matters was a major event that we staged in June to coincide with World Accreditation Day. That was a face-to-face, a live event. It was also streamed, and it's available to watch on socials. We've had a number of other initiatives that Brendan and his team have worked on, including our Natalie video series, the Nata Explains series. We've had increased activity on social media. We've introduced a program of acknowledging significant member anniversaries, and we've been far more proactive with media, both television and print. Instead of actively avoiding the media, we've actually been proactively attracting the media. And perhaps to Susan's question, hopefully, Susan, I'll answer your question with the next point. A new initiative that is part of a body of work to strengthen member engagement and member services generally is our Member Advisory Forum. We have had a members representative group for a number of years, but we felt that it was time to refresh that concept. So we established MAF to share information and provide advice on Nata initiatives and Nata activities, to gain insight and advice on trends, drivers and priorities of members. And essentially, we wanted to ensure that accreditation and the services that Nata provides continue to add value for members. The Member Advisory Forum has broad representation. It covers all of Australia. It covers all, as far as possible, as far as practicable, our sectors and activities. Membership is as broad as possible to cover the different sizes of conformity assessment bodies that we accredit, and also public and private. There is no fixed number of members. Currently, it is at 9, and we are holding 2 meetings a year. We will be holding our 4th meeting in November. It will be our 2nd face-to-face meeting. I think it's fair to say that the first 2 meetings being virtual were challenging and probably difficult to really establish and settle a new forum like this. Our last face-to-face meeting was in May, and that was much more productive. I envisage our November meeting to be even more productive and an opportunity to really explore some of the issues that are affecting members, issues that Nata can address to improve the service that we provide to members. In relation to our business activities, they continued through COVID through the past year, but they continued to be impacted by the COVID restrictions. Assessments continued nonetheless. We were transitioning back to on-site, but we still continued our virtual and our hybrid assessment model. We continued to give priority to accreditation activities supporting Australia's pandemic response, and that included scope extensions for SARS-CoV-2 testing at no cost. It's interesting to note that at March 2020, we had no accreditations for SARS-CoV-2 testing, but by August 2022, we had over 230. And that's a testament to the Nata staff, to the strategy that we adopted to triage and prioritise scope extensions, but also to our TAs who supported us, to our HPAAC, and of course to our members who were patient and supportive of the processes that we had to undertake to get those scope extensions enacted. I reported last year that we had launched our biobanking accreditation program following the publication of ISO 20387. And in the past year, we granted our first accreditation. That was to Biobanking Victoria, a part of Monash University. We also signed two new agreements. We signed an MOU with the National Blood Authority. We signed an MOU with Main Roads WA. And we re-signed 2 existing and quite long-standing MOUs, one with the Australian Signals Directorate for the Australasian Information Security Evaluation Program, and our long-standing, as I said, MOU with Queensland Health. We had been undertaking a review of the R&D program. I think I also reported this last year. That program had been in place for around 20 years, but we had a number of concerns about the program, and as a result, we had been undertaking a major review. That did take some time because it included engaging with each accredited facility. The outcome of that review is that the standalone program has been discontinued. Accreditations, however, have been continued for testing supporting R&D activities. And those accreditations will remain under the relevant standard, which at this stage is 17025. We have identified the possibility that some accreditations may be either transitioned to or may be able to gain accreditation in other programs, such as our new biobanking program. But that, of course, is at the discretion of the relevant facility. We have had a number of Nata staff active in the reviews of ISO standards that are important to us. Nata per se does not have representation at ISO. Nata staff are there as the representative of another nominated organisation. That's usually Standards Australia, but in some cases it can be ILAC. Andy Griffin has been very active in the review of ISO 15189. Paul McMullen in the review of ISO IEC 17043, which is the proficiency testing program standard. And for your information, ISO 17034, which was due for systematic review, the ballot for that was negative, and so that standard was reconfirmed for a further 5 years, at which point it will be balloted again for further review. And just one last business activity that I wanted to bring to your attention is a project that we have some government funding to undertake. It commenced in the past year in partnership with JASANS and with GS1 Australia. And the project is about developing a framework whereby products can be digitally linked to the applicable conformity assessment results, whether they be test results or certification certificates. The program also enables a linkage to accreditation status, which of course is important to Nata and to JASANS. My colleague Brett Hyland is Nata's lead on that program. The proposal that has been developed is based on the use of an existing architecture of global location, product and document identifiers. And those identifiers are all have a basis in ISO standards. The project has attracted significant international attention. Brett is our latest international superstar, spending many late nights giving presentations to organisations like the WTO, to the United Nations and so forth. There is a report that will give you a lot more detail. It's on our website. The report's entitled Digitalisation of Conformance and Accreditation Processes. At this point in time, the project is at the pilot stage, and we are working with a Nata member to enable that pilot. In relation to financial performance, we have again performed well financially. As you can see from this slide, we made around about a $1 million profit. Now, that was not, in fact, all due to the fact that assessments were largely hybrid or virtual during the COVID pandemic. But the good news for members is that we have not increased our fees for the 2022-23 financial year. So this is the third successive year that we have maintained fee levels. In terms of operational performance, we had some growth. In the past year, we had around about 1.8% growth in total number of accredited facilities. Now that's pleasing, but to some extent, we have to accept that that is a reflection, in part at least, to the fact that in the previous year, we needed to defer initial assessments because we had limited opportunity to go on site. So some of that 1.8% could be taken to be cumulative over the two years. Our Charter of Service, again, slightly below targets here. Certainly there has been an improvement in the time taken to conduct initial assessments. And again, that's largely due to the improvement in the COVID circumstances. We're able to go on site in a more timely manner. so a reflection of improved access to services. The delivery of the final assessment report slightly below target, and that really is the large contributor to the fact that our total performance is slightly below target. The good news is that is largely back on track now. So perhaps a timing issue, but nevertheless, we didn't end the year where we would have liked to, probably due mainly to COVID. So to the year ahead, we will have another busy year with a number of projects, some small, some larger, aimed at improving accreditation and member services generally. So some of the work ahead, we have the implementation of our multi-site accreditation model. For those of you in HP, you already have a multi-site accreditation model. For those of you in sleep, you also have a multi-site accreditation model. This is largely aimed at those other facilities. We will have our ISO 15189 rollout. Now we have over 750 accredited HP labs, so this is a large body of work to engage with members and technical assessors and provide advice and information on the changes between the current version and the soon to be published 15189. We will have our APAC MRA evaluation in March 2023. We are looking to extend the scope of our recognition to include biobanking. The APAC MRA will be will be a hybrid evaluation. We will have some evaluators on site and some zooming in from all parts of the world. We have the renewal of our MOU with the Commonwealth Government scheduled for early next year. Now, this is not just a re-signing exercise. There's a significant body of work that is undertaken before we can re-sign that agreement. Obviously, there are editorial changes made to the agreement to make it more contemporary. But we at Nata need to do a review of our compliance with obligations, and our parent, if you like, department, the Department of Industry, also engages with every other government department to which this MOU applies to gain information on Nata's performance against its obligations in that MOU. So it's a significant body of work to ensure that we are fulfilling those obligations. Also on the government's part, that it is fulfilling its obligations and that we have a contemporary MOU for the next 5 years. Some of you will have already seen Andy Griffin presenting our HP metrics video. This is a video highlighting aggregated industry data, and we have a body of work underway to engage with individual organisations and prepare individual organisational reports. So the HP metrics at the industry level will continue, will be refined, but we will also be engaging with facilities through the year to present to them their own reports on their own aggregated data based on the new, it's not so new now, HP multi-site assessment model. In closing, I'd like to recognise 2 significant anniversaries for Nata. The first is the 40-year anniversary of the Nata RCPA accreditation program for human pathology laboratories. The second is the 10-year anniversary of the Nata ASA accreditation program for sleep disorder services. Both programs are world firsts. Both programs are conducted, run, managed in partnership with the peak professional body, so with the RCPA, with the ASA. What this shows is how such a relationship can work effectively and enhance the technical integrity of accreditation. For me personally, both programs have special significance. I was heavily involved in the early stages of the development of the sleep program. But the Nata RCPA HP program was actually the reason I joined Nata. And I'm very privileged that it set me along a very successful career with Nata. So happy anniversary to Nata RCPA and Nata ASA. In conclusion, I'd like to thank David and the Nata board for their continuing support. I would like to thank Nata staff across the business for all of their contributions during another challenging year. Of course, Nata wouldn't be Nata without our volunteers, without our technical assessors, and without our AAC members and their incredibly invaluable contributions. And Nata wouldn't be Nata without our members. And thank you too for your ongoing support and for your support, particularly over the past 3 years, which have been challenging for all of us. But without your collegiality, without your patience, and without your willingness to adapt to the circumstances, we would not have been able to maintain an accreditation service through the COVID pandemic. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks, Jennifer, for your very insightful overview. So I'd like to move now to the okay, so look, we're moving now to the appointments following the 2022 elections. And as a result of those elections, we now welcome Dr. Gillian DeCint as a newly appointed director, and the reappointment of Tracy Farrer. Both of these were member elected, and myself, who has been endorsed as the board nomination. So thank you all. We'd like to also thank Dr. John Leader for his contribution to the board. John's term concludes at the end of this AGM. The 2022 annual report for the Nata Group, which includes the auditor's report, there is available on the Nata website, and I trust that you've all had a chance to peruse that report. But at this point of time, I'd like to move that that annual report be accepted. So I'll just pause for a moment, and if you're all happy with that, I will take that as read and we'll accept the annual report. So thank you for that. So let's just pause now for, are there any questions that people might have? And we'll come back to your question, Susan, as specifically as Susan. We start with you, Susan.
Susan, can I just, are you there? Are you, does that address at least in part your question?
In part, Jennifer. So can I ask a couple of follow-up questions? More specific questions?
Certainly.
Okay, so I'm happy to say that I'm prepared to say that I might have missed this piece of information, but I guess I'd be interested to know who are the 9 Nata members who are on the Members Advisory Forum, and how does Nata and those representatives intend to liaise, communicate, engage with the rest of the Nata member body?
So there is a MAF, the MAF membership is on our website, Susan, under our people, our people tab. I can read the names for you, although I can't read their organisations from this distance. It's probably not worth me reading them out to you because you're not going to know them, although from pathology, there's Kathy Carolan, who is from Melbourne. You may know her or have at least heard the name. The others are largely from other parts of Nata's business. At this stage, as I said in my presentation, Susan, it is still, I know we've had 3 meetings and we're up to our 4th, but it is still early days and we are bedding down how this works. At this stage, we are relying, in terms of MAF, we are relying on MAF for input. We will have a number of other opportunities to gain feedback from members, and that will be driven by MAF. But at this stage, we're relying on MAF until that process is bedded down.
Susan, appreciate that the previously advisory committee members representatives would circulate and request information or feedback from members, and that there was a direct, if you like, passageway for members to bring forward information. So look, I'll look at that from a board perspective in terms of how we can ensure that there is a good pathway conduit from members to either to the MAF or to Nata itself. So thanks for that question, Susan. I personally agree with your sentiment there, being a member myself. So is there any other, are you happy with that, Susan? Did you want to raise any other additional item?
Probably not in this forum, David.
Sure. And feel free to communicate with us on that regard. Thank you. So is there any other questions that people might like to raise in terms of the information that has been brought forward to the meeting? So that being the case, thanks everybody for your participation today. And as there being no further business, I will declare the 2022 AGM closed. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.